My childhood is a bit of a mystery to me. I had no idea that that was something problematic. The fact that you don't remember most of your childhood could be a sign of trauma. I remember maybe 15 to 20 minutes of everything leading up to maybe when I was 8 years old. It's all blank to me.
I was sexually molested when I was about 9, right after we moved to Oregon, with my dad drunk in the living room, and it was his best friend that came over and got him drunk and then abused myself and a couple siblings.
I remember running around with all the kids, neighborhood kids, and running around a corner and seeing my brother on the ground getting kicked and beat up by a bunch of kids. And I just stopped, froze in my tracks. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I just sat there and stared and, in disbelief, and I felt like I couldn't do anything about it. Well, next thing you know, they pick him up, start hugging him, telling him good job, congratulating him. Little did I know they were jumping him into a gang.
My brother died when I was 9. He was 8. He was hit by a car behind me. And that changed my life, that moment. The community blamed me because after he was hit, I went out and I picked him up by his arms, like, get up. That's all I could think is, like, get up, are you okay?
These people all have something in common. They've experienced significant adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs for short. If left unresolved or untreated, those experiences can create childhood trauma and toxic stress that may last a lifetime.
ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, based on a study that was done 20-some years ago in San Diego with Kaiser Permanente and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And it focused on the impact of 10 different adversities that impact children's lives throughout their life. Because as we like to say these days, childhood lasts a lifetime.
The ACE study measured 3 types of childhood adversity: abuse, neglect, and serious family dysfunction. Abuse can be physical, emotional, or sexual. The second type is neglect and can be physical or emotional. The third, serious household dysfunction, includes substance abuse, violence towards a child's mother, an incarcerated relative, divorce, or mental illness of a parent. Research shows the more ACEs a person has, the more likely they are to develop potentially serious health problems later in life.
I've been a pediatrician now for about 20 years, and it was plain to see that the children who went through difficult circumstances in their early childhood definitely had not just behavior consequences, but medical consequences as well. One of the things that we've discovered about toxic stress and adverse childhood experiences is that it actually does change brain architecture. It changes the way the neuronal connections in our brain connect, like which areas connect with which.
Roger Sherman has been with the Idaho Children's Trust Fund since 2007. The nonprofit's mission is to prevent childhood abuse and neglect.
It matters what happens to kids. It doesn't just matter to that family or to that kid. It matters to all of us.
That's critical, especially when you look at the most shocking findings of the ACEs study.
Fully that all of that is preventable.
If you have 6 or more ACEs, you are likely to live 20 years shorter than a person who is not impacted by those ACEs.
Understanding the ACEs science wasn't really shocking, but it was more confirming that there really is a reason why we start to see people suffer from chronic diseases more than other people. And even in our own community in Nampa, we talk about your zip code can be more predictive of your health than your genetic code. People where I live 9.5 years longer than people 4 miles away from my house. So what really causes that? And how then do we work to really mitigate before people become really sick?
I have a 10 out of 10 ACE score, so it covers the whole gamut from neglect to abuse to sexual trauma, everything. My father was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and my mom was the focus of his abuse most of the time. So the neglect part would come in when my dad was really drunk and just not showing up for us. I learned about ACEs in class at Walla Walla, And one of the professors had us take the test. And at first I was just like, oh my gosh. I'm looking around the room and everybody else, like, they kind of had us raise our hand for like general ranges of numbers. And myself and one other person were the only ones to raise our hand for 8 and above. And I was like, wow, that's huge. But it also was a relief. A lot of my medical issues that I have now were explained by my childhood ACEs. And it was just like, oh, I'm not insane, like, for lack of a better word. There's a reason behind what's going on with me, which was a huge relief, more than a surprise, I guess.